platoon sergeant. I said, they got dooski and AKs. Can I engage? He said, what? And I repeated myself. And then he relays it to company, because I couldn't talk company, just platoon. And while they're, whatever they're figuring out, apparently my big mouth, I don't know, these guys in the truck, they must have known the jig was up. So
yeah.
They lurched forward, but only like 5 or 10 feet. So they're a little bit behind us. And then they all spilled out. And when they all spilled out, then all the vehicles behind us, and everybody saw all the weapons. And as soon as that happened, it was on. And the vehicle behind us just pink misted everybody with the main gun, just firing into them. And then all hell broke loose. Those other 2 vehicles got immediately destroyed. And we started pushing forward. And then the whole battalion kept moving forward at a slow pace. And everything with the heat signature got destroyed. And our air officer called in the brevity for, to get all the available air on station, because we had spotted tanks. They were moving some T-55s or something, some tanks around trying to come in close enough to fire on us. So then we got all the available air on station, and it was just incredible show of this mass destruction. That unit got wiped out. I think 300 or 400 of them got killed, and only we had some very slightly wounded, but nobody killed.
So I want to take a minute today to tell you guys about the Perfect Jean. I've been wearing them for a few weeks now and really enjoy them, and I just want to share it with our audience. Sometimes jeans have this problem where, you guys all have seen these skinny jeans that they like crush your balls, and, it's just not comfortable to wear. Or the other way around, jeans are like too baggy. You have this sort of like diaper in your ass area, it looks like. So there are these problems that, different fits of different types of jeans have. And the Perfect Jean strives to fix that, both the fit, but also the mobility, the maneuverability. It has a stretchy fabric, like they say it's like yoga ready, but I would say it's athletics ready. Moving furniture, doing things around the house, you're not going to have that like super tight, like constricted fit that you feel like you're not going to be able to move around in. And there are over 400,000 people out there wearing these jeans at this point, so not all of them can be wrong. I hope you guys will go and check them out. So a few scenarios where you can wear these jeans and where they really come together. Everything from, doing yard work or doing things around your house. If you have to move furniture around or you have to do handiwork, they're perfectly comfortable. But you can wear them, getting your man spread on the subway, if that's your thing. So the Perfect Jean is great for all kinds of different environments, whether it's doing handiwork around the house or on the job or athletics. And we really hope you guys will go and check them out. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order plus free shipping at theperfectjean.nyc, or Google The Perfect Jean and use the code HOUSE15 for 15% off. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc with promo code HOUSE15. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. So fuck your khakis and get the Perfect Jean.
If you sleep hot at night, you know just how disruptive it can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where Ghost Bed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, Ghost Bed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and even cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts with your body temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firmer option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for a 101 nights risk-free and make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping and most items ship within 24 hours. If you're not sure which ghost bed is for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get your personalized recommendation, or reach out to their friendly team of sleep experts for all the help you need. Even better, Team House listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/house and use code HOUSE at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/house with code HOUSE at checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide. And if you're not in the market for a mattress, check out their pillows, their bedding. They have all kinds of great stuff there. So thanks to Ghostbed, and check them out.
Special operations, covert ops, espionage, the Team House, with your hosts, Jack Murphy and David Park.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 338 of the Team House. I'm Jack Murphy. Tonight we are here with Eddie Wright. Eddie served in Marine Recon, and he was just telling me that this is the 21st anniversary of his alive day since the attack that he was injured in overseas. So we're pumped about that, pumped to have you here, and thank you for coming on the show tonight, Eddie.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So, I start off asking most of our guests about their origin story. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and what your path was that took you towards the Marine Corps.
I was born in Chicago. My mom was an immigrant from Ireland. She met my dad. She was a nurse. Met my dad. He was a resident at the University of Chicago Medical School. My brother and my sister and I were all born in Chicago. We moved to California for a bit, a year or two, and then up to Washington State. And my parents split, so my dad sold his practice, joined the Air Force, so I became a military brat. So I jumped around a bit with that, but mostly, I grew up with my mom, and I'd say Seattle. Seattle would be what I considered my hometown outside of Chicago, or where I am now in Texas. And so you wanted to know about how I got into what drove me to get into the Marine Corps. When I was very young, I used to get up at 4 a.m. with my dad whenever I'd be hanging with him in summers, and he was an endurance athlete. So he would run, and I would just ride a bike. And like I said, there was a time when he was stationed at Lackland Air Force Base, and so we'd be, up at 4 a.m. or so, and I'd be riding my bike, little kid, and then riding alongside my pops. And we used to run by I guess they had the Marine Corps Canine Training School there, and they'd be running in formation in the mornings. I don't know, I was just a kid. I thought they were cool. And then, of course, at my age, being influenced by all those awesome movies that came out in the 80s, the cheesy ones like the Schwarzenegger ones, Commando or Rambo, or even Heartbreak Ridge. I thought it was the coolest movie ever as a kid. I watch it now, and I'm like, what's happening? Yeah. So, my path to the Marine Corps was a little different than most people because I was an angry kid living with my mom in Seattle, and in the early 90s. It was a little rough back then. And they had a thing that was like a forced integration where they'd send kids from one side of the city to the other side to go to school. And so I hated my school. It was a 45-minute bus ride each direction. And I just started skipping school. So I got off to a rocky start. And then, of course, who are you going to hang out with if you're skipping school but other kids that are up to no good, I suppose. So long story short, I ended up getting into a lot of fights, which got me in a lot of trouble. I guess not very many people know this, but I actually was like a white kid in a Samoan gang, in Seattle in the early 90s. And so that kind of escalated the trouble that I got into.
I got to ask you, Eddie, how did that work? I mean, the Islanders are pretty insular normally, aren't they?
Yeah. but I'm an Islander too. I'm Irish, so I don't know. And Irish people like to fight. I I I just had a few of them as friends, and then you know just started gradually hanging out with them. They got to know me, and I really didn't get too much respect from them until they saw me fighting, and then they knew that I would fight, so they kind of respected that. Like I wouldn't back down. There was a point where I was getting bullied, and somewhere along the early part of my sophomore year, I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I decided I would feel better being beat up than to live with myself and to just let these guys punk me out and treat me like this. So I stood up to the bully and I knocked him out in front of our math teacher in the hallway at West Seattle High School. I was shocked because it was a lucky hit, I think. And as he fell, he hit his head on the locker. So he was Dunsky. Well, word travels fast in school. So then I had to, I just started getting in a lot of fights because it felt so much better than the opposite of where I was just always getting picked on. And I went a little too far. And then I ended up getting jumped into the gang, and then I had to fight one of them one-on-one. And I knocked that dude down too. So I guess all the everyday fighting with my brother, my little brother, who's we're like a year and a half apart, but he's bigger than me. Apparently I was learning how to fight. Like we used to get knocked down dragouts, like real fights, my brother and I. And I just went a little crazy the other direction, and took the whole code of the gang or gangster just quite literally too far. Like if I heard somebody was talking about me, if I saw them, I would call them out. We'd be fighting. And it just, how kids are, they talk trash, but I would find them and then we'd be fighting. I didn't win every fight. I don't know how guys are like, I've never lost a fight. I've had my ass whipped plenty of times. I've been jumped a bunch. I couldn't even count the number of times I've been kicked in the head or something, which doesn't help when you get blown up by an RPG. But so I had a lot of hard work to do. I ended up going to juvie for 20 months.
Oh my God.
The best thing that could happen to me. Yeah. I ended up in juvie from all that nonsense. And the camp they sent me to was outside of the city. It was in Western Washington. And that's where I started to thrive. I've noticed throughout my history of my life, if I was in a structured environment, be it, unfortunately, juvie, or maybe when I played rugby before the Marine Corps, of course, the Marine Corps, I thrive. I do pretty well. But I was just kind of lost. So being in juvie gave me an opportunity to finish high school. And by finish, I mean, I hurried up and I got my GED while I was there. And then I went out. I had a work crew that worked outside of the wire, so to speak. And we worked for the Department of Natural Resources there in Western Washington. So we did a lot of things like pre-commercial thinning of forest land. We planted 10 of us kids in there in one season, planted 240,000 trees. We did trail maintenance, fire breaks. It was hard work, but we were outside. I loved it. And so I was able to do some college classes while I was in juvie, and that was great. And so I get out, I'm on probation. I buy a pistol from a buddy. We go fire it off into a tree stump, walk out of the woods, and the cops are waiting for us. And so because I was on probation for my juvenile fighting and all that, on my assault charges, I got, that was a felony to have a firearm. So here I am again. I set myself back, and I still wanted to be a Marine, but this really, really put that goal farther out of reach. So that took a couple years to settle. I ended up having to do a couple months in King County, downtown Seattle, and a month got community service. and I was able to get my probation transferred to Oklahoma, where my dad was stationed at that time in the reserves with his private practice. And I just went immediately on the straight and narrow. I went to school. I would play rugby every chance I got. I connected with the Marine recruiters. They told me what I had to do to join the Marine Corps, which is quite a bit. I had to pay some restitution. I had to do almost 300 hours of community service. I did a bunch of volunteer work, and I collected some letters of reference that had an impact on the recruiting command's decision to give me the waivers to join. Because at this point, I have a GED, a juvenile felony, and now an adult felony. And, it was going to be a miracle. But, I think one of the letters, just the hard work I put in and getting to know the recruiters over a couple of years and becoming friends with them, that helped. But I got a great letter of recommendation from a friend of the family that my dad had gotten to know because he was a patient of his, who was a World War II Marine for 3.5 years. He was with 4th Marines on Corregidor. And so I think his letter, he got to know me. I think that letter carried the most weight. And then also my relationship with the recruiters and the fact that I had done everything above and beyond what I had to do. So I couldn't believe it. They gave me the waiver. I had downloaded the application for the French Foreign Legion. If the Marine Corps didn't take me, I was out. Like I wasn't going to settle for it.
Yeah.
I was working 2-3 jobs at a time, and it all worked around my rugby schedule. But I was doing something, and after knowing some guys that went to the Legion, I'm glad I didn't go. Well, it's cool stories. You can tell I'd be speaking French probably, but I hear it's pretty rough. Yeah. So, and I made it to the Marine Corps, and it was a lifelong dream. And I always wanted to be a reconnaissance Marine. So that was something I was in.
Because of Heartbreak Ridge?
No. As I got older, I started to read all the books I could on Vietnam. Like I was really into Vietnam, and I was into, I would read stories about Green Berets. I'd read stories about Navy SEALs, Army LRP units, and then something about the recon units, like being a reconnaissance Marine, really, really appealed to me. And I thought the stories were great. And one book that I read, it's called First Recon, Second to None by Paul Young. That one was one of the most influential books for some reason, which coincidentally I got to meet him years later after I was wounded at a reunion. And he gave me his own personal copy of that book with little missives in it and, notes on pages.
Oh, wow.
Like from his buddies that he served with, and a little Ace of Death card in there. And I it was at a reunion in DC. I was still an inpatient in the hospital. My team leader came and dressed me up in my Charlies. I was frail, like skinny body, big head, pale. And I don't think I even had prosthetics. My Charlie uniform was just baggy. That's the tan khaki shirt, the blue pants with the NCO stripes. So, it's weird how these things happen and come around full circle. This seems to be the story of my life.
It's surreal. So your dream of joining the Marine Corps comes true. You fought to get in harder than most people from everything you told me, literally and figuratively.
I've got a lot in my way, yeah.
Yeah.
But I knew that if I didn't try everything that I could, and this was the same attitude I had when I was, becoming a reconnaissance Marine when I was in the Marine Corps. If I didn't, there was no excuse for me not to try as hard as I could. And if I didn't, then I knew that I would look back and I would regret it. And I would be one of these guys that always said, I was gonna, but there's guys everywhere. I wanted it.
So you get into the Marine Corps. I take it you came in as, what is it, the Marines called as 0311?
Yeah, I got guaranteed 03, and I did well in boot camp. I wasn't on guide or anything. I think one of my drill instructors liked me, and he put me in as a squad leader during boot camp. But as soon as the senior came in, I was out. yeah, and I was glad. I didn't want any extra responsibility like that or pay for somebody else's mistakes at that time. And then at School of Infantry, I got stuck with the 3-week guard duty in winter, standing outside on the ranges in Gumby suit. But it wasn't so bad. But I was able to graduate School of Infantry with the highest GPA and the highest physical fitness score of my class, my company. And so they meritoriously promoted me to Lance Corporal. So I picked up Lance Corporal right out of
Amazing.
SOI. I thought I was badass. Well, I learned I wasn't anything. You get to the fleet. One of my NCOs who picked me up, the 3 Marines came and picked up 3 of us that went out to 29 Palms as an 0311 Rifleman, but we went to a unit called 3rd Light Armored Reconnaissance, 3rd LAR. I had no idea what 3rd LAR was. And one of my NCOs picked us up. He was, everybody's in their alphas, and he's a Lance Corporal also. But he's only a Lance Corporal because he'd been busted down from sergeant for hazing. But it was back in the day before 9/11. There was no, it didn't stop him from continuing his habits. So I got a good taste of the old school hazing in 29 Palms. That was great. Yeah.
Hey guys, I want to take a moment to tell you about tonight's sponsor for the show, which is Ridge Wallets. I've been using this for about 6 months now. Really enjoy it. This wallet is made out of carbon fiber, titanium, and steel, and it really holds up and lasts. So, in the past, I carried a leather wallet. It's made by, professional, has a small shop, and does leather work. It was a nice wallet, and I really loved it. But the problem with those wallets is they get thicker and thicker and thicker, and we end up carrying around something that's like, a little phone book in the back of our pocket after a while, and that leads to problems with your posture and everything else. So what I like about the Ridge wallet, it's really a minimalist design. So most of us are using cards these days, so it can hold all of your cards in here inside these elastic pieces that you can press out, and then there's a clip on the back. You can I use it to clip money in when I do use dollars. Can clip them in there. They have over 50 colors and styles, so it's not just functional. You can personalize it a bit as well. They have some that feature your favorite NFL teams and so forth. Losing your wallet is also pretty crappy. I've had that happen to me as well. Actually, that wallet, the leather wallet I was telling you about, I lost it on the subway. So there's that. But Ridge has an answer for that, Ridge AirTag attachment. And with that, you'll always know exactly where your wallet is before panic mode kicks in, all right? Ridge isn't just about wallets. They create premium everyday carry essentials like key cases, suitcases, and rings, all built with the same sleek, durable design. So right now, Ridge is having their once-a-year anniversary sale. Get up to 40% off at ridge.com/house. Just head to ridge.com/house to see their biggest sale of the year. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. So guys, please go and check out Ridge wallets. This also makes a great gift. My girlfriend has one of these. My stepfather has one of these. So I've given them away too. I have one of them. And our producer, Dimitri, has one. So please go and check out Ridge wallets. Your first unit going to the fleet, you started to describe a little bit of it, but what was that experience like as you went on through your early career?
Well, I remember when we got to 29 Palms, it was, pitch black outside, and all I could see were lights in the distance, and I had no idea how desolate it was until the next morning when the sun came up, which we didn't get much sleep immediately. Like the whole, every boot or so-called boot, but new guy that had showed up that day to the unit, we were field day in the barracks, scrubbing the catwalks with toothbrushes, just nonsense for hours. And so the sun comes up, and I realized, well, there's nothing out here. And okay, so we. I got introduced to the fleet and all my NCOs and just started getting with it. And I was lucky because our company, Bravo Company, 3rd LAR, we were part of the UDP program that came up soon after I got to the fleet. So I think I got to the fleet in March 2nd of 01. And because I went to boot camp in 2000. And I think, we left, maybe it was July, I think. We went on the UDP to Okinawa. And so I love
what's the UDP for those of us
oh,
non-Marines?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay.
It's a unit deployment program. So they have like a battalion landing team, and Marines will do a rotation every 6 months through Okinawa.
Cool.
And so you'll have Marines of different MOSs, but there's always an infantry component and an LAR component and other units. And so that to me was great. I was all about it. Now, I'm traveling the world. It's exactly what I expected. And I was a boot, and that's a new guy, So as a boot, we all had to shave our heads back then. So we're all running around with bald heads so that we're known to all the NCOs. And there was a lot of cool training and hazing. It was hot in a way that was hotter than 29 palms because of all the humidity. By lunch, if you had time at lunchtime, you'd run back to the barracks and swap your skeevy shirt out for a dry one because you'd be soaked. Sweat, yeah, and I really enjoyed it. And while we were there, I had a great opportunity because my platoon commander was prior enlisted, and he knew about a training opportunity in Australia, and he organized this for 3 of the LAR scouts, which was the 0311, like myself, and 3 of the crewmen and himself. We took a C-130 down to Darwin, Australia from Kadena. And we trained with the North Force, which is their Northern Territory Guard, kind of like a National Guard. They don't deploy overseas in combat, but they protect the Northern Territory. They patrol the waters. They patrol the bush. They watch out for smuggling, flora and fauna, or drugs, or illegal immigrants and things like that. And that was really fun. And we got to do a survival course that was taught by the Aborigines with them. And so we had a classroom portion, went to the ranges, worked with some different units, and we went out to the bush about 5.5 hours deep into Kakadu National Park by Land Rover over dirt roads. And we were starting our practical application part of this survival course. And the sun came up. We slept on the ground, things biting us and whatever. And everybody's worried about saltwater crocs and things like that you could hear sliding off into the rivers and from the banks, and other weird noises, and like the bush in Australia for the first time. And when the sun came up, we were ready. We were all ready to go, thinking that here we go. We're gonna probably have to strip down and throw our stuff in a pile, and run off into the bushes with a shoestring, one boot, and a knife or something. And we heard them yelling for us, "Oi!" We heard them yelling, "Oi, get all the Yanks!" And so we gather around, and they tell us that America has been attacked.
Oh shit!
In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is part of the
training.
This must be part of the scenario training or something.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, seriously. And so that was 9/11. So I was in the middle of the bush in Australia when 9/11 happened. So we had the 5.5 hours drive back to Darwin, just, no intel. We didn't know what was going on. We just knew that America had been attacked. So we got to think about all these things like, well, we're in Okinawa. Who attacked us? And are we, at the forefront of World War III or war, and we're going to go in first? And then, in my mind, I'm calculating, what about who's the first guys into World War, first guys in to fight, like how long do they last? Or, what are the odds of being there at the beginning and being there at the end of the war? So not really understanding how warfare kind of, would be, was different. Never have been. And so these days it is. But, as you know, that was 2001, September. Oh, something that I think is cool, talking about synchronicity, is the MEU rolled in right before we went out to the bush to do the practical app or the survival course. And I think it was the 15th MEU. And that's the MEU that rolled into Afghanistan first. Yeah. And so we had the whole town of Darwin to ourselves, which was great. But then the MEU rolls in, and now there's 3,000 sailors and Marines and all, we're not a novelty anymore. I'm like, get out of here, MEU. And so the only people from the MEU that got to stay on Larrakia Barracks, which was the Australian military base there in Darwin, was the platoon. And when the recon came on, they were all like in great shape. Got a giant jungle rucks and their fins hanging off the back. And, two of them got into a fist fight with each other. And I don't know, did I lose you?
Yeah, we got you. It's just some bad internet connection.
Okay. So these guys are fist fighting. It's just like, they stayed in like a hangar. And I thought to myself, damn, that's where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be with Recon. Well, ironically, when I got to Recon, that was the very platoon that I went to with some of the same guys
no
that
shit.
I'd seen. Yeah, so it's just a trip. So we go back to Kadena 3 days later. We finally got a C-130. It's an 8.5-hour trip. The whole entire plane in the back, the floorboards were covered in just cases and cases of beer, Australian beer, just full of beer. And looking back on it, I think because I was the new Marine at boot, and we all were. We didn't really have the guts, but nowadays I would have been like, shh, you've been drinking that beer. What are they going to say? So we get back to Kadena. We did some security for Kadena for a couple of weeks. That was really cool. A lot of adventures there. And eventually we go back to. We did a month in Fuji at the base of Mount Fuji. That was cool. Training with those guys on their base, and then we went home to 29 Palms in January of 2002. And then that whole year leading up until when we deployed to Kuwait before the invasion in 2003 was just a workup where we trained exclusively for combat in Iraq. Armor ID, learning how to ID them through the thermals, enemy vehicles. I had picked up corporal. I took my Marines down to EOD. We had EOD give us classes on landmines and IEDs and things like that, just to really put the fear of God in us about where we were going. And then we deployed on over to Kuwait in January or February, early February of 2003.
And this was like your whole MEU going over there at once?
Our whole battalion.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then there was different regimental combat teams on different locations there in Kuwait along the border. So just the Marine Corps was there. I mean, it was, we knew we were bringing all this stuff over here if we weren't going to go to war.
Well, I mean, I'd like to ask you what your impression was like. Was there an op order given to you guys? Like when you deployed, did you know what your mission was going to be, or did you find that out later?
We had no idea what our mission was going to be. I think the first thing we learned was which breach lane we were going up. That was only days before.
Wow.
Like we're across the border, yeah. And we didn't even know. I think, at least at my level, I didn't know what any of our first objectives were or anything. And we got pretty deep into Iraq before we got into our first firefight. We saw a lot of blown up vehicles from airstrikes and artillery. We saw some oil and gas fires, and just weird things like, I can imagine an old school train just flying by like at 100 miles an hour, just things like that, or guys in the middle of nowhere just on a camel, just booking it like a jockey. Like, where's that guy? Just things like that. And then it wasn't until the 23rd of March on the 1/8 Northing that we got into like our first firefight, which was the biggest by far of any during the invasion. Big one.
Did you guys run into like the Fedayeen or something like that?
I think they were Fedayeen and regular army and conscripts. And I think they used these conscripts as bait, because we'd crossed the Tigris that morning, and then by the time we got into that big firefight, that was, I think we were 10 kilometers farther north than any other Marine unit, because the LAV-25 system, they drive fast. It was a perfect vehicle for the invasion, for that terrain and that at that time, and that technology, the way the wars were fought. And so we had some Cobras doing orbits ahead of us for most of the day when we got real far north, but they had returned to refuel, and then we started seeing large, we're going up in a big column formation. The whole battalion, I'm the third vehicle from the very front of the battalion movement. So the tip of the spear of the tip of the spear, they say LAR, tip of the spear. So we were seeing these big groups of men standing here and there every once in a while on the sides of the roads, but they weren't wearing uniforms. We didn't see any guns or anything in the middle of nowhere. So it's fishy, but nobody had fired a shot. Nothing had happened. And 3 vehicles came towards our battalion directly from the front down the road, which at this point was just a dirt road. And there was 3 white pickup trucks. There was 4 guys on each side of the gunnels sitting in the back facing inboard. So 8 guys in the back and 3 guys in the front of the cab. And I could hear, I had a comm helmet. I was popped up out of the scout hatch. And my center was popped up out over here on the right side. And I had the comm helmet on, in there. And so I could hear the radio chatter, and they were saying, nobody's, as these 3 trucks approached us and the sun was setting, it's dark, they had their headlights on. We were running all blacked out. And for some reason, they came right up to us, and 2 of them stopped before they entered into our column. But the first vehicle drove past the first 2 vehicles and stopped to the right of my vehicle, right next to us. Like I could have spit on them, and I could still hear him saying, "Hold your fire. We're not showing any aggression. We don't see any weapons." And my MVG mount on my helmet had broken. So I'm holding my MVGs up like this with my left hand, and I'm looking over my saw gunner. He's got the saw trained on him. And I said, Dane, keep that gun on him, and if they do anything, like let him have it. And he's a young kid from Texas, 18. He was all about it. He's excited. And so I'm looking through my MVGs, and I see the guy in the middle of the row of guys sitting on the back of the truck that's facing away from us. I see one guy turn his head like this, and he looks up over his shoulder up at us. And as he does, the barrel of his AK peeks out outside of his coat collar. And so I see that. And then I look across at the guy sitting right across from him, and he had his jacket closed, but there's a gap. And that's when I saw AK like chest rig.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm all excited, and I hit the comm helmet. I said, "Hey, Staff Sergeant," to my vehicle commander, he was our platoon sergeant. I said, "They got 2 gear and AKs. Can I engage?" He's like, "What?" And I repeated myself. And then he relays it to company, because I couldn't talk company, just platoon. And while whatever they're figuring out, apparently my big mouth, I don't know, these guys in the truck, they must have known the jig was up. So
yeah,
they lurched forward, but only like 5 or 10 feet, so they're a little bit behind us, and then they all spilled out. And when they all spilled out, then all the vehicles behind us and everybody saw all the weapons. And as soon as that happened, it was on, and the vehicle behind us just pink misted everybody with the main gun, just firing into them. And then all hell broke loose. Those other 2 vehicles got immediately destroyed, and we started pushing forward. And then the whole battalion kept moving forward at a slow pace, and everything with the heat signature got destroyed. And our air officer called in the brevity for, to get all the available air on station, because we had spotted tanks. They were moving some T-55s or something, some tanks around trying to come in close enough to fire on us. So then we got all the available air on station, and it was just this incredible show of this mass destruction. That unit got wiped out. I think 300 or 400 of them got killed, and only I think we had some very slightly wounded, but nobody killed on our end.
That's so weird, man. Like, do you think those guys were like doing some sort of like reconnaissance? Because they weren't surrendering or like trying to defect. They were clearly trying to hide who they really were.
It looked like they messed up, and you kind of see it in their faces, like, oh shit, these are Americans. Like maybe they thought that these LAVs were BMPs or BTRs or something. I don't know, but they didn't have. I think they didn't have any night vision.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time they rolled up on us, it was just like they were like, oops. Or they could have been just sent to
probe,
steal us out. Like they probably were told, go do this or else. I mean, maybe they had no choice. But it seems very foolish to do that. And that may have just been to kick it off or to hold us in place or something while they moved those tanks around. But whatever their plan was garbage. It didn't work. And if they had a plan, it just seemed ridiculous. And it wasn't like they had to have known we were coming up. I mean, the whole battalion was moving north and just kicking up just a cloud of dust, for miles. And we didn't engage till the sun had set. So like right as the sun was like at its lowest set, like just going below the horizon and things got pretty dark is when these trucks showed up. So it was, I don't know what they were doing. They didn't know what they were doing either.
And how far north did your battalion push?
Our battalion, we went all the way up to Baghdad. We split into companies. Delta Company is the LAR company that rescued the is her name Jessica Lynch?
Jessica Lynch, yeah.
And the other POW, dang, I forget her name. I met her a few years ago, nice girl. But then we went, we went to Diwaniyat. We got into had a couple of close calls, had a mortar drop like right outside my platoon commander's vehicle. That was nuts. That was kind of cool. The LAV tow variant was shooting a tow missile at a water tower that there was a couple hundred soldiers mustering under, like getting ready to fight us, and we had stopped. And I was watching that. I thought it was going to be, in my imagination, it was going to hit that water tower and it was going to explode and it just rain down on top of everybody. It didn't happen like that. You could see the missile going towards it, and it went through some high power lines. And I think what happened is that guide wire hit that wire and it just detonated in the air before it hit the tower. And then all of a sudden we started getting rained on with mortars, and because we were at an intersection and we had just gone through an underpass, so we kind of that actually was a better plan that they had. They had us in the pre-position targeting. So, the mortars start raining on us, and I'm standing up there like an idiot, like trying to watch the show, and the mortar landed next to the vehicle in front of me, my platoon commanders, and I see him drop down, and all of a sudden I think, uh-oh, he got hit. And it flattened all 4 of the tires on the right side of that LAV, but it didn't disable it in any form with the run flats. And we backed it up rapidly. We all backed up and went under the bridge that was there. So, we had protection from the mortars raining down. And we jumped out the back, and then the scouts in the back of the vehicle in front of us jumped out. And it was like a NASCAR pit crew tire change, because they have, air hoses you can run out the driver's hatch with the air guns. And every vehicle had 2 spare tires. So we swapped out those tires so fast, and then that was the end of it. We split. We didn't ever go back to fight them. I don't know who went to go fight them. Where did we go? We went up to Diwania. Oh no, we went to Nasiriyah right after the big battle of Nasiriyah, like 12 hours after or something. There was dead dudes everywhere. We went to the 2 bridges by the little military base where they had a pretty heavy firefight all night. There were unexploded like ordnance mortars sticking out of the dirt and all kinds of, like, you just didn't want to mess with anything, because you want to actually kick something and blow yourself up. And that was an experience, but we didn't get into any gunfights there. I think we ended up going to Diwania, and then the war, like most of the combat, sort of fizzled out pretty quickly because the regime fell. Then it switched to like, let's hunt for Saddam.
Mm-hmm.
We did have a day where we drove out to the southwestern border of Iraq and went to a cool, it's like an ancient town. It did have some sort of factory there that we didn't go into, but we went into the town. There was a base there, and it looked like a medieval fort, like something from Lawrence of Arabia, because it was in a square shape. It had a walkway along the top where you could fire from, and it had parapets on each corner, and it had the thick stone walls. They remind me of being in Europe in the castles where they're angled and you can fire your bows or your muskets out of them, but it's harder for them to shoot you. And then they had a radio room in there that was cool because it was a fully operational Soviet radio equipment, and old school, like with vacuum tubes. You know what vacuum tubes are? Like,
yeah.
I mean, just old, and it worked. It all worked. It was crazy. But the place was deserted. Like, they saw us coming and they split. And so we stayed in that town. We drove around. We checked out another spot. We stayed maybe an hour. I did see one of the prettiest girls I've ever seen in my life down there. The prettiest eyes. Like, all you're seeing is the face.
It's funny how that stands out in your mind from the deployment.
Well, like, I'm in the top of this giant 14-ton vehicle, and we drove past her house, and there's maybe an 8-foot wall, and she's in the yard, and she's covered, but her face, I could see her eyes and her face, and she's looking up like, what's and probably, I don't know, same age as us, 18, 19, 20. I was, like, they called me Gramps because I was 25, but yeah, like, these are little things that stick out. So a little adventures in between, but no real. Really didn't have any gunfights. A lot of guys got sick. We used to call it the shit barfs, because they had us taking a doxy every day.
Yeah,
and then we had the 2-PAM and the atropine. I mean, we were in our mop gear for the invasion. Everything at first, and then we chucked the giant rubber boot covers. But I have to say that mop gear works because we were funky after not bathing for about 2 months. I mean, but you couldn't really tell unless you had to use the bathroom or something. You just unzipped and,
it really locks in the flavor.
Damn. Yeah, we were marinating for sure in those things. Yeah, that was, we stopped a lot. We had to wait for fuel a lot. That's how fast we moved. We had to wait for chow food. I lost a lot of weight. I lost about 25 pounds in 1 month because we were eating one MRE a day, and we had
In that
so
heat,
you'd split
yeah.
it up, you'd even save like the little creamer packets and stuff. You dump that in your mouth. There's any calories you could get. The humanitarian rations disappeared right away. I feel cheated because I'm like, we're not supposed to eat those. I won't eat them. But looking back, I'm like, we might as well have. So, like, somebody ate them. And so I lost 25 pounds. We didn't get much sleep. This is not exaggerating, maybe 2-3 hours total in a 24-hour period, but like little cat naps.
Mhm.
It was kind of crazy. But, you get used to it. You don't want to fall asleep because you don't want to get snuck up on. So it was quite the experience. Yeah.
Yeah. And then how did redeployment back to the United States go?
Well, we went back down to Kuwait. We drove back down to Kuwait, and when we got there, we had to turn in gear and do all that sort of stuff. And it went pretty fast. General Mattis came out. He was there. He was a 2-star at the time. That's the first time I met him. And he would say good job and thanks, and just say hi to all the units that were rotating back. So we it didn't take long. I think we were back in the U.S. We were one of the early units to come back. I think I was back in by the end of June or something. It was 4.5 months we were there, and then all of a sudden we're back, and we're all wild. And so we get off the plane, which landed at March Air Force Base in Southern California, and they had big, just a very nice welcome. Fire trucks with their hoses going, and people cheering us on. People were, very real patriotic. Those years after 9/11, when America came together. And then we drove in buses back to 29 Palms, and I had a girlfriend who I'd met when we were doing security at Kadena. She used to fly air medevac with the Air Force, and she had been transferred to Edwards Air Force Base. So we had been dating for that whole workup, 02 to 03. And then she was there to see me get off the bus. And that was a strange feeling. Leaving my Marines, like, their families, if they had them, were there to see them. And then, we immediately get 30 days leave. And so that first evening home was strange for me. We went out in town, we got a place in town and stayed. And I felt really uncomfortable and awkward, being around this girl that I knew very well. I just felt almost unsafe. Like I just wanted to go back and be with my Marines. It was weird adjustment. It was so fast, like, not like back in the day when the Marines from World War II or Korea or something would get on a boat and you'd have a month or two.
Right.
And then it would, take a train or whatever you did. You'd have some time. So, that month of leave went by real fast. And as soon as I came back, my command let me take the recon screening, which I had taken before on a 96, which is like a 4-day long weekend that they'll give a unit every once in a while, and got yelled at by my platoon commander at the time for not asking permission. I was like, "Sir, it's my day off." But he was annoyed because recon was calling, trying to get him to cut orders for me to go train. So they finally let me go. I took the screening again and passed again, and immediately got orders to pre-basic reconnaissance course, which was at the time in August of 2003. It was run by the battalion, and it was on Pendleton, and at the time Recon was at Camp Margarita by the airfield on Mainside. And that was a gut check because I was always in pretty good shape, and I'd been through some tough courses, like the Marine Corps Martial Arts course, but the Marine Combat Instructor Water Survival course, that one, I gotta say that for me was harder than Recon, but it was the first time I was with guys that were just the next level fitness. And the instructors they had were just freaks. And I just remember the first run we did at 4 a.m. on the first day. It was the boots and utes, gammy pants and boots. And we ran up the backside of the peak at Margarita. And it's a short run, miles or so, but all uphill to the very, very end. And it's short downhill, and you're back at our compound or where our battalion was. That's the first time I've ever fallen out of a run. And by fall out, I mean not be able to keep up with the people in the front. I was somewhere in the middle of the pack, but guys were strewn out probably half a mile because the guy they had take us on that run, he was just I think probably slick, like in PT shorts and running shoes. He could probably run 14 and a half minute, 3 miles or something. He was a freak. Just phenomenal runner. And he took off like a bat out of hell. And I thought he's just going to sprint for a little bit. He's just playing some mind games, and he's going to slow down over here. Nope. It was like for me, it felt like a sprint because I'm a big dude. Like at the time I was, probably 210 or something like that. I'm still getting my meat back on my bones from the invasion. So, but I could still run like 3 miles in 18 and a half minutes, which is pretty good for a bigger dude, 6'3". But no, I wasn't fast enough to keep up at all. And so that was rough 4 weeks. That was like eat, sleep, study. That's it. Eat, sleep, study. And then, when you weren't getting thrashed, all over the base all day long and all night long. I mean, you learned to just be miserable and focus on whatever the next thing you had to do was rather than the whole picture. Because there was times I wanted to throw myself down the mountain and break my leg because I knew I could get a rest. But then I knew I'd have to go back through it again. So I just didn't.
But this isn't the in-doc. This isn't the selection. This is actually the basic reconnaissance course.
Yeah, but they called it pre-basic reconnaissance.
Okay.
So this was
Gotcha.
So if you pass this 4 weeks, then you're ready for the basic reconnaissance course down on Coronado at the time at Expeditionary Warfare Training Group Pacific. So, I think they've improved on the science of like training people up, but back then it was just a gigantor, felt like a haze fest.
Smoke fest, yeah.
Oh man, it was rough. And but it got you. We were ready. I mean, I graduated that, got orders, went down to Coronado, and then that was tough, but it also could be a lot of fun at times. And because they had prepared us physically so well, that part was certainly like it could crush you, but it was. You just knew you were going to be all right. Yeah. But a lot of guys quit. And a lot of guys who quit were the guys that you thought would never quit. I guess the term for them is gazelles. Things come easy to them.
Yeah.
And then the first time things get hard, they're like, oh, I can't. This isn't for me. Or they don't like not being the best. So their ego gets in the way. So it was a lot of fun. We had a little confrontation with the Buds class once. Our little friendly rivalry that we had going on, and I think some of the guys stole one of their hard hats from in front of the chow hall because they didn't have a gear guard, and the whole class came up. We had maybe 10 minutes before we had to get back into the classroom. I was trying to take a power nap, upstairs, and we heard this banging on the hatch, and buddy had left mine, and we opened that back door, and what the hell? Like, I mean, it was jam packed like nothing but like these buds kids, like they were pissed. I didn't know anything. I had no idea that somebody had taken their hard hat. So we were just defending our territory, like, you ain't coming in here. And then, there was a Marine in there. He's like, dude, come on, we get fucked if we, he was going through buds. And he's like, this is kind of, they'll, just have them give it back. And I'm like, well, hold on, don't come in here. And I go, and I'm like, which one of you bastards? Kind of laughing, but like, come on, man, we're going to get in trouble. And they gave it back to him, and that was that. I feel bad because I got a lot of SEAL buddies. I'm like, fuck, but no harm, no foul. And that was, to me, really exciting because I'm really in recon training.
Yeah, like the stuff you read about in the books.
Yeah, we're running up and down the Strand, in Coronado. We're finning, like the buds classes are running by us with their boats. We're running by with our F-470 Zodiacs. I'm tall, so I was always like, come on, man, you guys aren't, like, we got short guys in my team. I'm like, reach higher. And it was fun. It was hard, but it was just, when you're doing something that you love, it takes that chore out of it. And I loved it. It was just so rewarding. I made it, graduated. Yeah.
So which recon platoon did you get assigned to?
I got assigned to 2nd Platoon in Bravo Company, 1st Recon Battalion.
Is that back at 29 Palms?
No. 1st Recon Battalion's at Camp Pendleton on the West Coast. So all of our companies are out there too. And so back at Margarita, and it's the platoon that was on the MEU, and it's also the platoon that during the invasion was featured in Evan Wright's book Generation Kill, and then that HBO docu-series. And I haven't seen it. I can't watch it.
I get it, yeah.
Like, I'm like, oh, come on. We don't look the best. But it's kind of cool. Rudy Reyes played himself. I didn't like him for a while when I was first at the unit, but like now we're just, he grows on you. We're brothers. And, he's a good dude. Well, we all evolved, myself included. And, that unit at the time was real tight, and First Recon still is, but we were a collection of guys that had time in peace to go to schools and to get in shape and to train and work together and gel as a unit. For the most part, I mean, there's people like me who I report. Let's see, I graduated BRC late November. And I reported to the unit, and they put me in 2nd Platoon Bravo Company. And they were the guys that, that like all these guys, the Recon Marines, they were in the invasion too. So myself and a lot of the guys had combat experience, but there were some guys that, new to the unit who didn't have any combat experience, even guys senior to me. So that gave me a little bit of street creds. I didn't get messed with. And I had some buddies I went to boot camp with in School of Infantry who were at the unit. And I guess they vouched for me. So nobody really messed with me. And then I never screwed up. So I never had a reason to have anybody yell at me or anything. I was pretty good at staying out of trouble at that point. So we had just a short workup of 2 months before we were back in Kuwait. And in that 2 months, we were back in February. So maybe 2.5 months or something like that. I was supposed to go to SEER school after recon school, but I got into a little, I was trying to get these dudes off we were at the gas lamp in downtown San Diego having a good time. And we stayed till the bars closed because my buddy's wife worked at one of them, and she was driving us all home. Well, we were, mass exodus out of the bars. Everybody's in the streets, and some guys were like grab assing on her. And this is bad. Never break up a fight unless you want to get into a fight. So like I'm like, come on, guys, and there's four of them, and they all like assembled in front of me like they were gonna whip my ass, and I was like in a good mood, like I'm not trying to fight anybody. We don't have anything to prove. We're just having a good time. And so I put my back up against the wall, and I'm like looking at them, and like they're just making a bunch of noise and jumping around like talking trash, but I'm kind of ignoring them. And man, one of them was a straggler, so he ran up from behind and broke my jaw, and my head bounced off the wall, and I went down like a sack of potatoes, but I popped right back up, just down and back up. But I was a little like, whoa, and damn. And I go, what the fuck was that? And those guys were like running away all together at that point. Like they got one lick in and ran off. And as they're running off talking trash, they're like, that damn dude, you just got sucker punched. I'm like, well, no shit, that motherfucker got me good. So I had to go get staples in my head at Balboa. And so no harm, no foul, back of the unit, back training. But I was supposed to report into SEER school with the rest of the guys 2 weeks after that. My jaw kept hurting. And I thought I had like a pulled muscle or something. I didn't know what it was, torn ligament. So I finally went to the battalion aid station and told them. And then they sent me down to the hospital. I got x-rays. And then I went back to the field and I was back at work. And then all of a sudden somebody's, they're asking for me to hurry up and get back to the battalion aid station. So I go down there. And they tell me, your jaw is broken. Your right condyle's fractured. You can't be moving your jaw. Stop talking. And I'm like, well, it's been 2 weeks. I've been trying to eat soft food like every time I ate. And I was like, damn it, because we were doing the workup. We knew we were going to deploy again. And they said, well, they told me that at the aid station. So I went back and I found my platoon sergeant. We were still in the field. I go up to him and I'm like, hey, Gunny, they told me my jaw is broken. And he looks at me and he says to me, he goes, well, can you still deploy? And I go, yeah. He's like, all right. And we just went back to work. Like, that was it. And I thought, yeah, this is men's club. I fucking love it here. This is great. But it healed up. I just had to be careful. So I didn't go to SEER school because they would have slapped the bejesus out of me.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been good with your jaw.
Yeah, they ruptured one of my buddies I was in BRC with. They ruptured his eardrum, but I could see him being a mouthy guy, probably pissed him. I mean, I was like, oh, I could see that why they might slap the bejesus out of that guy, especially. So, they would have messed me up probably. They sent me to an Arabic linguist course with some of the guys. So every day for a month straight, I just sat and learned Arabic. I actually enjoyed that because I realized how much it could help me. Because in the invasion, they gave us these little
cards
with like English and Arabic, and you would show it to them, and either they pretended they couldn't read, or they probably didn't know how to read. A lot of these guys, like in the middle of nowhere, but like our pronunciation was horrible. I realized after doing that course, I'm like, no wonder they didn't understand what the hell I was trying to say. Like just must have sounded like gibberish. So that was cool. And then we immediately went back. I mean, it felt just like I'm already back. It's less than a year.
Wow. Yeah, quick turnaround. And so where did you get deployed the second time, and what was the mission?
Well, the second time we went up to the Anbar province, and we went up to Fallujah. And as we drove up from Kuwait, I started to get more and more of a different vibe in the environment. Because during the invasion, we'd run into a lot of people that were cheering for us and thumbs up, and they'd say things like Bush #1, and it seemed more welcoming and less shady. But when we got to Fallujah, they were not hiding the fact that they did not like us. And I think at the time the 82nd Airborne had been there for about a year. So they were ready to split. We relieved the 82nd, and they were all pretty cool. They were real friendly. So our mission, they told us, was to conduct counter rocket and IED ambush of opportunity and reconnaissance and surveillance missions, which would mean like they put us in hide sites and not so much patrolling, but just like trying to insert, get eyes on, and sneak around and you know. So my team leader and I, we asked command if we could get map data on where they were firing from. Of course, they didn't have anything, and they gave us maps, but they were air maps, 1 in 100,000, and we were supposed to make our patrol routes from these, and it's just like, what? And I just think they didn't have them at the time. And just like during the invasion, they passed out SAPI plates like the body armor, and we each only got one. So we all put it in the front of our flak jacket, but so we took a walk and we went to the gun line, like the counter battery artillery, the counter battery radars and the RD gun line there on Camp Fallujah, and went to the the radar trailer, the counter battery radar guys, and just introduced ourselves, said what's up, said we were Marines with 1st Recon, and we were wondering if you guys had any information or data you could share on where these guys are firing from. And they're like, sure, come on in. And we climbed into the back of the trailer. They have the screen that, like, in real time, will pinpoint where the rocket or the mortar is launched from. And then they can get on the horn and tell the gun line to put in the right data, and they would be firing rounds back within 30 seconds or less. And they had maps. They gave us some 150,000 maps, and we were like, sweet, thank you, sir. And they were out of there. Like, they were like, yep, there you go. We're going home. They were stoked, and they were real cool. They were nice to us. And and then when we were in the trailer, some rockets came into the base. So we got to see the thing in like live real time, the little map that they have, it's backlit, and they have a little thing, and it lights up exactly so they can drop a 10-digit coordinate to the gun line, and they fire back. And so then we returned back to the unit. We had these maps, and we knew where all the mortars and the rockets had been fired from, like all the different intersections or sides of the roads and all this. So we go give it to our intel guys, and of course they want to take all of it and all of our maps from us. So we gave them the maps and the data, but we kept a map and we kept the data for ourselves too, because we needed it. Sometimes it's funny, you can bring some information to someone in the military and then
it disappears.
Ask for it, and they'll tell you it's classified. You're like, I'm the one that gave it to you. That doesn't make any sense. But that's just how it is. So anyway, we used those to do some planning, and they split our teams up into different areas. So you had certain area of responsibility, like X number of grid squares or square kilometers along the Euphrates. At first, when I was there, on the southwestern side of the south, from Camp Fallujah all the way over to the Rock ASP is where we were operating our teams while I was there. That was pretty exciting. What was I going to say? It'll come back to me. But so then I was really doing what Recon Marines do. We would get inserted. We get a frago, a mission like this. This is where your team's going to go. This is your area. This is your area for you to be responsible for. And so make your plans. Find your hide site. Mark out your patrol routes and get your pre-planned fire positions and just different things like that. And rig yourselves out, get all ready, and then we get inserted. And that was an adventure. That was Like I'm like, this is what I'm doing with Recon Marines are doing. It was pretty cool, but it was dangerous. We got every day pretty much, and every night there was rockets or mortars hitting the base, and then every time you'd be driving through Fallujah, people would take pop shots at you at least, or in the early days of the IEDs, they were just dialing them in. They were trying to hit us with IEDs, but fortunately, they blow between vehicles or they bury them too deep or something. They wouldn't. So we lucked out a bunch of times. The people in Fallujah were shocked the first time we drove through as a company through the city of Fallujah, like right through the main part of downtown. And I remember the 82nd had told us on the turnover, like, don't go here, don't go there, especially this or that time of the day or whatever. We completely disregarded all of that. It's the first thing we did is went to where they told us not to go, to just be like, hey, we're here, what's up? And so that really, I think it caught the people in Fallujah, like the fighters in Fallujah, off guard because they didn't expect it. So we didn't get ambushed or anything because they didn't think we were going to come through. So we made, and so we made our presence known, and then started doing these ambush of opportunity missions, which were pretty successful.
Were these going after like the mortar teams that were hitting the base?
Yeah, that's what we were trying to get, or people putting in IEDs.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were times we got compromised. It's funny because we had to cross like a lot of flat ground and linear danger areas, and there was just we would only move when they turned the generators off at night, and then we'd try to be back at our hide site by the time they turned them on at 3 or 4 a.m. So you had a little window of opportunity to be out there, and we were also doing surveillance, reconnaissance, and surveillance. So, I mean, sometimes that's tedious work. I mean, you're writing down. If you see somebody, you're going to write it down, describe what were they doing, what were they wearing, what kind of vehicle did you see, color, like where, when, why, just anything, because you don't know what's going to be valuable intel later, but just, and then of course baking in the sun during the day, just roasting. Yeah, we got compromised by a house full of women one night, trying to cross through the little part of town and get up to the banks of the Euphrates. And I'm walking, I'm patrolling, and we had some guys still in the hide site, so there was 6 of us. So we split our team, and so we were going through this danger area, and I'm passing this house, and it's like 50 yards away, and it's dark because they don't have street lights and stuff, but they had a little light at the front porch of that house, and all of a sudden a woman comes out, and I'm like, just like, it's just, there was nowhere to hide, there was nothing to do, so I'm trying to like melt down slowly to a knee and just make myself into a little ball, and she must have saw me, she must have seen me, or one of the other guys or something, because I heard her saying something, and then another girl comes out, and all of a sudden there's like 10 women looking and peering, and like they got the heebie-jeebies, and they went back inside, and so I was like skirted out. Yeah, they didn't have windows on our side, so I figured that was my opportunity. We almost smoked a guy on a little motorcycle. Thought about it, but didn't smoke them one day, because there's a curfew. Like technically, if you're out and about, you're fair game. But we weren't that like cavalier. We didn't just shoot everybody because they were outside after curfew. I did have heard about some foreign units that would do that though, and we. We had a mission. We got inserted once, and we were going to our hide site and spotted a couple of guys digging an IED into the side of a road there in Fallujah. And so we put 4 of our guys hunkered down, and my team leader and I went in and did like an L shape on them. And my team leader opened up, killed one guy, put 3 rounds in his chest, and he dropped immediately. And I opened up on the other guy, but I screwed up. My safety was on. So in the time it took me to take I had a little parasol, belt fed 5.56. By the time that I took that safety off, that dude that I was going for was already like flat, lower than a blade of grass. And so I just mowed, like disappeared. So I laid down some fire and mowed down like where he was. And we both got up and we both started moving, and we come up on him, and I come up over this berm, and there's the one guy. So I stitched him up, but he was the guy that my team leader already had hit. And then we're like, where the fuck did that other guy go? And we're looking, and we got night vision, and we see him, and he's just flat, like terrified. So we grab him, we roll him up, and we call back to the rear. And we're like, we need to get extracted. We got 1 enemy K and 1 POW. So the react comes, and we ended up, loading those guys up. Oh, then we had to extract a team that couldn't find a hide site. So they jump in, and it's like we're in a convertible Humvee. And so we're all sitting around the outside, and we pick this team up, and they split between different Humvees. And my good buddy comes in, and he's sitting down on top of a tarp with his back to the cab of the Humvee, and we're driving back to the base. He's like, I heard you guys, I heard you schwack somebody. I'm like, yep. He's like, what'd you guys do with the bodies? I'm like, you're sitting on them right now. Like, we didn't bother to tell him. Yeah, just the weird, the twisted humor of the guys that hunt men, you know what I mean? And so we immediately had a reputation in Fallujah, and of course our vehicles were distinct, so they hated us. After that, you could really see it in their eyes. And so that's why I think they targeted us specifically for the ambush on April 7, 2004. They waited for us because they let a lot of people go through. That was the first time we cordoned off the city of Fallujah, first Battle of Fallujah. Mm-hmm. So, they tried to get us on April 7.
So walk us through that, how that transpired. And so you're saying they were targeting specifically the recon detachment out there?
That's my opinion. I didn't get any intel that said that, but we had killed one of them and taken another prisoner, and we were right in their backyard. Like that pissed them off. And and they were trying to get a lot of people, but we were just so active in the area that maybe we were the most prevalent unit that so we retired. We've been just back-to-back missions. Like, we barely have any time to reset if we were back on the FOB, if we were back on Camp Fallujah. A lot of times you can get back before the chow hall closed, or it'd be about to close. You'd run in, you'd be all dirty, and people would yell at you. You wouldn't care. Like, I wasn't hot food. I've been in the dirt for days and days, eating MREs. And so we came back from another mission. And then we got this order, the Fallujah, Fallujah's cordoned off. We knew that. And they were going to move us from Camp Fallujah, our company, to a place called the Rock ASP, which is an old Iraqi ammo supply point outside of Fallujah, a mile or two southwest, more west than south. But we were on that movement. once again, just a couple hours of sleep because you had to, down, just to, clean out the vehicle, refit the vehicle, get new fills for the radios, get, water, food, like just everything you got to do, ammo, and planning, short planning. And so then we stepped off later in the morning than we originally planned and headed west out of the base, crossed over the Euphrates at this on the bridge they call the dam bridge because it's a dam. So it's literally a dam. So it's the dam bridge was what it's called. We took some fire and some mortars crossing that. I think the mortars like splashed into the water, like pretty harmless. But we took a little bit of machine gun fire, so we pulled off into this one field that was like a road between the ditches and the trees, and all of a sudden the field opened up, but it was like a little peninsula because it had these big 15-foot ditch that went around it. And, we just turned around like 4 of our vehicles were Humvees. We didn't have armored Humvees at the time. And where my Humvee stopped across the ditch from me about 50 yards was a group of about 15 men and a couple of cars. And they were pissed and looking dirty at us, but they didn't have weapons or anything. I just had my saw on them, and I'm like, if anybody does anything, I'm just mowing everybody down. And because we were in the open, it wasn't a good spot for us, so I didn't like where we were, and we ended up, getting out of there pretty quickly and back on the road, and we were on Route Boston, heading there. That's south of Fallujah, heading west. And I'm in the first vehicle. I got the radio. I'm assistant team leader. And, we see just people acting kind of strange. So I call it back to our platoon commander. And we stop the convoy 10, 20 seconds. And they say, get going again. And then so we get going, and whereas usually you'd see a lot of people standing around milling about, maybe the gas station or cars coming and going. We didn't see any cars and any people, so it was kind of a eerie feeling. You knew something was up, and a car was coming down the road at a high rate of speed towards us. And when they saw us, they just flipped a U-turn and floored it away. So I called that in. We stopped the convoy again, just 10 seconds. They said, get going again and pick up your speed to whatever it was, 25 kilometers per hour or something. So then I really knew it was on. So I took my ammo box off the swing arm mount and I put it on my gun and I spit my dip out because I didn't want to swallow my dip. And a couple hundred yards later, all hell broke loose, and they had opened up on us with heavy machine guns, mortars, RPGs. They had IEDs in place, but they didn't blow. And during the course of the whole firefight, one of my buddies from my platoon found some and actually disarmed them, and like disconnected them from their power source so that they wouldn't blow. And when the shooting started, I called in the contact in direction. And I just threw down that headset and I went to town with my saw, and they were firing at us from my perspective. The first vehicle, like basically our 12 o'clock all the way to, our 3 or 4 o'clock. And so from where I was suppressing like the 3, 4 o'clock, just basically everything out to our right side. And because they were along a berm behind, there was a berm and then a big ditch with waist deep water. And then it came up to another berm and then a small field, then all the houses. So they were in the berm, on the second berm on the backside. So they're firing from pretty close. So it was a close ambush. We had nowhere to go. We stopped, set up a base of fire. Our Bravo element vehicles in the back of the platoon flanked them. And the Iraqis had blocked off the road too with a dump truck, so
Oh shit.
we couldn't. Yeah, we were, and we didn't. I didn't know it yet, but this was our SOP to stop and set a base of fire. I was waiting for a lull in the fire so I could get out and get behind that berm, and but it was like nuts. I mean, they were dumping on us. It was like that movie Pulp Fiction when the guy busts out of the bathroom and tries to shoot what's his name, and he's looking like, what?
Yeah.
You know, like how to get shots. But so like bullets are hitting the door, bullets are hitting the Humvee everywhere. They're snapping by my ear, like you can tell when they come real close. In my head, I'm like, shit, you know, I hope, you know, Mazon's all right, my ARTO. The guy sitting to my left, like if it missed me, it came that close. It had to have hit him. And they were firing RPGs at us. I kept hearing these explosions. I suppressed these dudes to our right. They were behind the berm, and I moved over to, like, because these RPGs were exploding. I thought they were shooting them at the vehicles behind us. You know, I'm thinking, damn, I hope those dudes are all right. And this house where these RPGs were coming from, I was about to suppress in that direction, but my barrel of my saw was like right over an inch over my team leader's barrel. He was shooting at some guys, and I just thought, I'll come back to them. I didn't want to shoot it out of his hand, and I was thinking I was going to get shot in the face because of the amount of bullets that were just like coming by my head and hitting the door. And I didn't have a real door. It was like cut in half with duct tape on the top so you wouldn't snap yourself on it because somebody just took a torch and cut it rough. You know, sandbags and old flak jackets glued to the floorboards and sandbags on top, just like ghetto. But when I moved my gun back to start firing back to like around the 3 o'clock, you know, that's when an RPG hit my saw. And so when I got hit, it was just a boom that I can't really explain with words. Just I think I wrote it down once, like a thunderclap originating from inside your head. And I thought, oh, you know, I got shot in the face, and I screamed out as soon as it happened. It was just like boom, and I yelled out like, "Ah, I'm hit!" And as I'm yelling it, I felt stupid for yelling it out, so I shut up. Like, I don't know why I would feel like stupid, ego or something. Like it was cliche. I didn't want to be that guy. Like,
That's what's running through your head in that moment.
Yeah, I just felt stupid for yelling that out. Like I lost my cool, you know. Like, so I shut up, and I thought to myself, okay, well, now I'll see what it's like to die. I wonder if I'll have brain damage. I'll be, you know, because I got shot in the face or I got shot in the brain. And I thought briefly about, oh no, I'll miss the people that I love, or they'll miss me, and you know, they'll have to wait a lifetime till we see each other again. And then I thought, like, well, then it was like I got this clarity, and all this is happening like, I don't know, you know how time slows, like a second or 2 seconds or something like that. It seemed like it was probably a few, but not long. And I've realized somehow, I'm like, everything's going to be all right. You know, it's all good. Almost as if I knew there was no such thing as time, and I didn't need to worry about, like, not even a blink of an eye. Even a blink of an eye is too big of a box to put around a section of time. It's kind of hard to explain, but just like an understanding and the peace came on me that I've never had before or since as strongly. And when I thought that, then I thought, well, hold on, man. You're having all these thoughts. Maybe you didn't get shot. Maybe you know, like, wait a minute. You're not gonna. You just need to chill out and you know, calm down, dude. You don't want to go into shock. And so I thought all these thoughts in just a couple seconds, and you know, time had slowed. when I thought that last thought, the lights came on. Boop. They just switched back on. And my left arm was killing me. And I picked it up like this, and everything's a little bit hazy still, kind of. I picked up my left arm and I looked at it and I'm like, fuck. And my right hand hurt. So I'm like, kind of like, I don't know if I want to see it. I lift it up and I'm like, maybe you guys can bleep this out. I don't know. I'm like, motherfucker, both of them. So both my hands are gone. This is like shredded and bone fragments, like almost cauterized it. So it was just not like shooting blood out or anything. And then this was like, my hand was off at the base of my palm, and it looked like my hand, all the bones had been blown out of it or something. It was just an empty glove. It was shredded, like, that went through garbage disposal or something. And I was like, mother effer. But I looked down at my leg, and that was the worst, because my leg, the top of my leg, like all my quadriceps had been blown off, like it was a red pulpy mess, and my femur was sticking out to the side, and it was splintered and jagged and gleaming white, like in a sea of red. But with every heartbeat, I could just see,
oh my God,
the incredible amount of blood pouring out of my leg. Yeah. And I knew that I had to, that was what was going to kill me if I didn't get shot again. And so everybody's coming back around, like I'm coming back around, and this is not very, this is maybe a minute into the gunfight, if that. And of course, we're all deaf, so it seemed like there was a lull in the fire coming from the enemy, but there wasn't. We just couldn't hear it. But the hearing came back right away, and all of a sudden we just realized we were like fucked, still stuck in the kill zone. So, a team leader told the driver to hit it. So he steps on it, but the Humvee is damaged, tires are flat, gas tank's leaking, like it's like putting down the road. But we start to pick up speed, and our gunner is laid out on the roof. And before we started moving, the gunner was laid out on the roof, and he was curled up in a ball, like, and our driver was telling us, hey, he's not responding, blah blah blah. In my head, I'm not a jerk, but you have to prioritize, needs. And if he's dead, he's dead. We can't do anything about it. We're still in the kill zone. We got to get the F out of this kill zone. Also, I need some tourniquets. So my assistant radio operator, he didn't get shot in the face, but everybody got peppered with shrapnel and jacked up. Our team leader was putting a tourniquet on his right arm. His gun had been blown out, like his AR had been blown out of his hands. And he had a big, like, $silver hole above his triceps where his bones were shattered. And he was putting a tourniquet on with his left. And managed to get the ARTO calmed down. So, he's looking for our blowout kit where we keep our tourniquets inside the vehicle when we're in the vehicle. He couldn't find it. Everything was just scattered all over the place in the vehicle. And I'm like, don't worry about it. Just get my, get the tourniquet out of my sleeve pocket. I'll be all right. Like, I'm trying to calm this dude down because I can't do anything myself. But if he can't do it, then I'm done ski. And so I got him to put the tourniquet on my left leg up high first. And then he got one on my arm. My team leader got done doing his. So he turns around like this and he reaches over and he grabs the tourniquet that's up on my hip above my blast injury on my left leg, and he pulls on it to see if it's tight enough, and it pops off. And I'm like, oh damn it. So, and it's a good thing that he did, because
it wasn't tight enough.
It wasn't tight enough. I probably would have bled out. I barely made it. Like, each step of the way was kind of like a little miracle. So, Aaron puts it back on, this time really tight, like it's supposed to be, where it's hurting, but you're like, okay, yeah, that's going to be good. So I got 3 tourniquets on, and we get to limping out of that kill zone, and we, like, the vehicle, and we start to pick up speed, and that's when we see, like, oh crap. Like, in my head, I guess I thought maybe we could split off from the unit and floor it to the ROC ASP and get help there, because we certainly, it would have been faster than going back to Camp Fallujah. And I didn't say any of that out loud, but we made it maybe 100 yards, and that's where we saw the dump truck blocking the road off, and we were like, oops, we got to stop. So we stopped, but it was a good spot because it got us out of the kill zone, and it got us kind of around the corner to where the enemy had to dislodge from wherever they were firing from and come up and try to get into another position to finish us off. And you could see them like trying to come, and so we hurried up. We got with our, like, I'm like, get the radio. The radio was like, they had the 119 Foxtrot in the back of the seat. That thing was shot, but we had the little M biters, little handheld ones. So we were trying to get comms with that. But we hit off our visual signal, like a flare. And then we, my team leader switched seats with the driver because he could drive, and then the driver was shooting. So we had one rifle here on the left and one in the front seat on the right. And we the way we had to turn around, because it was a one-lane road and we were elevated and exposed still, is like a, not like a 3-point turn. It was felt like a 20-point turn, like that Austin Powers movie when he's in a golf cart in the hallway. And so it's like, and we got turned around, and then we went, it's like, make sure you press over there and press over here. And we were able to get behind another Humvee and get some cover. And then my company first sergeant runs up, Santiago. He says to, my team leader, he's like, "Hey, Cucker, are you okay?" He's from Puerto Rico, so got that thick accent. He's like, "No, First Sergeant, we're all fucked up." He's like, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you." So our corpsmen get to go to like the Army's 18 Delta, like the Special Forces medic school, and they're squared away. They call them SARC, Special Amphibious Reconnaissance Corpsmen. So my buddy Blair comes up and they slap a stretcher on the deck next to the vehicle. There's like diesel leaking and all around. I remember somebody saying, "Oh, there's fuel on the ground," and I'm like, "It's diesel. Don't worry about it. It's not going to catch on fire." And they pulled me out of the back seat, and my leg bent in half, like where the bone was fractured and out, and it hurt. I was like, "Ow." And Blair's like, "I'm sorry, brother." I go, No, it's cool. Like, and for me to stay alive and not go into shock, I was just backseat driving. Make sure my tourniquets are good, and I probably need some fluids and whatever. But I was still like full of adrenaline. So the pain of my injuries hadn't fully, it hurt like crazy, but I could disassociate from it because of the gravity of the situation. So they got me on the stretcher. They ran me over to an open back Humvee that had cover, and they hoisted me up and put me in the back of that thing. But from there, I could still see our vehicle, and I could still see my buddy who had gotten up on the gun. They got the wounded Marine off the roof. He turned out to be okay. He just got jacked up a little. I had a corpsman, they got an IV in me, and so then my SARC went off to go help some other wounded. We had 7 wounded total at the time, and one of them ended up, dying, my platoon commander. But I had this new corpsman who was an attachment in the headquarters or something. He's a young kid, like just wide-eyed, like, holy shit, you can tell this look on his face. And he says, he's just asking me questions like, "Hey, you got a girl back home?" And I knew he was just trying to keep me from going into shock. But I was just thoroughly irritated with him. Like, that has nothing to do with what's going on here. I didn't even answer. I go, "Do you have somebody looking over there at security, or what?" And but then I humored him. I'm like, "Yeah, I got a girl," but my mind was still on the battle, which was still going on. And at this point, it was like a 360-degree ambush. So it was pretty hectic and chaotic. I lifted my head up at one point and I saw my buddy on the 50 and I was like, get some. And that exertion almost made me pass out. And I had to tell myself, oh, dude, you can't be doing that. You need to slow down your breathing, like breathe, just be cool, relax. Like you got to hang on till the Kazvac chopper comes. So it took, like from the time I got hit to the time that helicopter came, it took about 45 minutes.
Damn.
We got one 46 and we got one Cobra. Later I found out it was just because shit was popping off all over the city. It was just, the air was just overwhelmed and busy. And so they got me on the bird. Everybody else, the walking wounded got on. Then I see him bringing in my platoon commander, Captain Brent Morrell, and he's just white, just white as ghost, And he's already white as a ghost because he's redhead, Great guy. I'm like, oh fuck, Captain Morrell, and they put him on the bird, and so we had a short, maybe 5-minute flight back to Al-Taqaddum. I didn't know where we were going. I thought maybe we were going back to Camp Fallujah, but we landed in Al-Taqaddum. I find out, after everything. And while we're in the air, I'm thinking, ooh, I hope they don't classify me as expectant, where you have a bunch of wounded, but they're like, this dude's going to die anyway, so skip past him and pick the next guy up. So when the ramp dropped and the medics, the corpsmen that were on the ground working for the field hospital now to Cotton ran up the ramp to come and grab us, I sat up real quick and I startled the head of the corpsman, but he grabbed me, I just wanted to let him know I wasn't dead.
I'm good to go, man.
Get me off this thing. Yeah, so he grabs me, another guy grabs me, one on each side, and they book it in, like they run into the triage tent. So they get me in there. And immediately they start working on me. Like they roll me over. The doc comes over. He's like checking for internal bleeding. The way they do that is they got to stick fingers up your arse. So I'm like happy that I'm in this field hospital because I'm feeling like, okay, I made it. Like all I had to do was I needed tourniquets at one point. And I got those. Then I was like, okay, I need the corpsman to get hold of me, get some fluids in or whatever. And I got that. Then I'm like, I need to get medevaced out of here. Once I get to the field hospital, I should be good. Like then I know I'm going to make it. As long as I don't get shot in the face, or any more injuries, I think I can be good. So I was in a pretty good mood when I got in there. I felt really more relaxed, but it had such a serious environment. It was like that TV show MASH or something.
Yeah.
There was like wounded dudes everywhere. Some were like kind of just sitting up on the gurneys, like looking dazed with minor wounds. And then some had like a bunch of docs and nurses trying to save their lives and stuff. And they rushed over to me and then checking for internal bleeding and I'm on my side and I looked over, I go, hey doc, how about I reach around? I'm cracking jokes like an idiot. So they get me stabilized and I'm laying there and a nurse comes by and I got her attention and I said to her, she leaned in really close, like to my face, and I go, hey, how many Irishmen does it take to change a light bulb? And she got a real like a what? Like a confused look on her face. And I was like, hey, feck it, we'll drink in the dark. And then she laughed and then everything went, then she ran off, she kept going. That's when I was fully relaxed. I think I was fully relaxed because the pain at that point, all of a sudden, I was just like, oh my God. I mean, it hurt so bad. That I think I passed out because of the pain, or it could have been, any number of things. So I passed out and I woke up in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
at Bethesda. 9 days later, I have a vague memories of my team leader talking to me on one of the medevac flights, either from there to Balad or Balad to Landstuhl. But they eventually got me back to DC. Later, I found out like they had to resuscitate me 3 times.
Holy shit.
From Tecate to DC. But I made it, and I woke up in ICU. Well, they woke me up one day, and I was dying of thirst. And they were asking me questions. Do you know where you are? And in my head, I wasn't really like responding, but I was thinking about what they were asking me. And I was like, clearly, I'm in a hospital. I don't know where it is. And they kept telling me I was at the National Naval Medical Center, Bethesda, Maryland.
Like, how did I get there?
And yeah, I must have looked like I was maybe had a traumatic brain injury or something, because rather than responding to what they were saying, I was trying to picture in my head where Bethesda, Maryland was. Trying to, I was like, I don't really know exactly where that is. And they ended up just putting me under again for a couple of days. There was another time I remember waking up a little bit, and I forgot that I didn't have hands, and I was like trying to get the tube out. I was intubated.
Oh,
and yeah, and so they put me back under there, but then they finally got me up, and they had me sitting up, like kind of back in the bed, and they were all around me. And there was a female doctor. I don't know if she was a speech pathologist or something. I don't know. She was asking me questions, and I was like, water. I need some water. I was dying of thirst because I was intubated for 9 days, and I was just so thirsty. I've never been that thirsty in my life. And they're like, we can't give you any water. And I went off. I was like, I'll kill you. I was nuts. I was like, you know where I just came from? Like, I was cussing. I was out of it. I was on I was doped up and everything. So I feel kind of bad. But anyway, I was in ICU for about 3 weeks. I was flat on my back. They were still debating on if they were going to keep my left leg. I had like saran wrap around all these open wounds, like my tibial, like my whole left leg, basically, and then my right leg on my shin, and then both arms. And I had tubes coming out of both arms, tubes coming out of both legs, like these little JP bulbs. Like, I was so puffed up and swollen. It was huge. Like, just my body had been through a lot. And then, they were draining fluids out into, like, it was just, I had feeding tube in my nose, and I was just plugged up everywhere. And they, so I had to have a couple more surgeries. I had some skin graft surgeries, and they were able to, get them on my leg and save my leg. With the donor sites from the skin graft hurt more than the actual wounds themselves at that point. And the nurses and the doctors and the staff were just incredible, amazing people. I remember while I was in there, Corporal Jason Dunham was in ICU too, and he was on the other side of the ICU, and I could see his room, because we had glass walls. And when they, he was awarded the Medal of Honor, but when the doctors declared him like clinically dead, he was on life support or brain dead. I watched as his parents, the commandant, everybody, like whoever could be in ICU was there to pay respects. And I'm in my bed, like I knew what they were doing. They told me that they had to unplug him. I'm in like flat out in bed in ICU trying to lay at the position of attention, and it's pretty emotional. It's sad. But I have so many wonderful memories of Bethesda and Walter Reed and the staff, good people that I've met.
I mean, that's got to be really tough. Not just when I talk to people, I mean, sometimes it's interesting that they kind of minimize what they went through themselves, but they see their buddies that went through it, and it's almost worse, you know, to kind of like see that and to not be able to help them. You know, I mean, they were receiving help in that hospital, of course, but
Yeah, I have some friends who even in you know, even though I'm good to go, like they still feel bad, like for me, and I'm like, I'm good, dude.
you're all, yeah. How does it feel, you know, 21 years to the day to kind of like recount that experience? Like, I'm just, does the emotional and physical pain, does it fade? Does it heal over time? Or does it take you right back to that place all over again?
I think emotional and physical pain, of course, fades or heals or morphs into something different, and it does take me right back to that day. But you know, I've talked about it a lot. I've thought about it every day. I've lived with it. So, as far as the emotional impact, to be able to speak about it, I can speak freely. I've always been able to speak freely. Sometimes, you know, I might get choked up, like, but I have just a like is pride, and I'm honored to have been part of that unit. I'm relieved that I didn't screw up, you know what I mean, and cause anybody to get hurt or killed by an inability to do my job correctly. That I didn't let any of my boys down in that literal sense, and you know, my brothers. So that's good, you know what I mean. And but yeah, I mean, life hasn't been the easiest since then.
Sure.
It's been wonderful. It's been terrible. You know, but you know, I got my dream job ripped out from under my feet when I was barely into it for a year, and not even a year, and but I got to do it. I got to live my dream, and that's a comfort to me.
Yep.
I did it.
Yep.
I wanted to do it my whole life. I did it. I did it in spite of all these obstacles I put in front of myself. And, you know, I have the respect of my teammates and my fellow Recon Marines, and that means a lot. That can, you know, and I have a brotherhood, and I get times, many times, where I've had to call on my buddies, just let it out, you know, and vice versa. And so, and a lot of times, if I'm feeling bad for myself, if I'm having a hard day, you know, it happens every once in a while where you know, you run that risk of starting to feel like you're a victim or feeling sorry for yourself or something. You know, I might get a call from somebody who needs advice from me, and just that act of caring about somebody else and thinking, you know, helping them get through whatever hard day they're going through will immediately make me or anybody forget about their own personal problems. And so I've learned that that is a great way to not get caught up into self-pity. It also gratitude, to find something to be grateful for when you just think life blows. It sucks. And sometimes it's hard to find something to be grateful for, but you can. And sometimes I have to call somebody and talk to somebody. And I've had all kinds of different treatment modalities for PTSD or trauma or things like that. And I've come to find that the things that bother me in life now aren't, excuse me, they're not my combat experiences. They're not necessarily losing my hands. That sucks, you know. It is what it is. But I've had a great life in spite of it, I think, and still here. But what bothers me are the traumas that everybody has. They don't have to be in the military. They don't have to be in combat. I have 2 failed marriages. That comes, you know, with a lot of overthinking, where I overanalyze. Where did I go wrong? Did I screw it up? You know, is it all my fault? Like, just like I'm too critical of myself. You know, childhood traumas, those things, you know, it's like whatever your trauma is, combat sometimes can exacerbate it, but surprisingly, it's not necessarily the combat that
Yeah.
it stresses me, because you can compartmentalize, you can rationalize, you got a job, like, you know what you're getting into. You're fighting an enemy combatant. Fair is fair. You know, he signed up, you signed up. I don't even have bitterness towards the guy that shot my hands off. I'm kind of like, I kind of have a little bit of respect. It takes some balls to, like, you know, get surrounded by the Marine Corps and be like, okie dokie, guys, we're going to fight to the death. You know, I don't respect, like, whatever their reasons might be, but individually, you know, like, I got to at least give them the respect due. Like, you had the guts to stand there, like they had the guts to stand toe to toe. Though I'll mention that 26 of them, our guys, we smoked 26 of them that we counted that day. Unfortunately, they killed my platoon commander, one of the nicest guys you could ever meet, Captain Brent Morrell. I went through recon school with him. You know, as a captain, he didn't have to, but he knew that he would respect himself, and us Recon Marines would respect him more if he did. And so we were good friends, you know, to the extent that we could be, you know, him being an officer and me being a corporal at the time. He was a really nice guy. He loved his wife so much. He would brag about her. I thought to myself, one time he was talking to me before we deployed, and I was like, I don't know anybody who is this in love. He was like, he's just like a good man. Tennessee, you know. So that's a bummer. Like, good people get killed, and I haven't always been the best person in my life, and here I am, still going. So I guess I'm not, you know, the Lord ain't done with me yet, for whatever the hell reason I'm here. You know?
And well, before we move on, Dee, do we have any questions for Eddie? We have a couple viewer questions for you.
Oh, cool.
From Shane, did you ever get to play rugby in Australia?
No, I didn't get to play when I was there, but I did get to play. My first introduction was as a kid in Ireland. My mom used to bring us back, but I did get to play in Japan when I was on the 6-month UDP, and that was cool. Like, when I was around and we weren't training, I played for the all services team, and that was super fun because we would play Japanese teams, and they were very technical, very fast, very skilled. But I was pretty good too at that point, because I've been playing fall, spring seasons and summer sevens in the Ozark Union, and I was big and fast, so I could. It was kind of, I mean, I was much bigger than those guys, which was strange. So it was fun. It was exciting. Yeah, it was a good time.
K Jam says, another 29 Palms survivor. Shout out.
Awesome. I grew to love it. Not saying I want to live there again, but, you know, good training.
One more from Aaron. Ever try getting in touch with Audrey McDade, Navy Cross recipient with a hell of a story? Not to mention the actions he earned him that award.
That might be a question for us rather than
It
Eddie.
might be that, but they put it.
Okay.
No, I've not met Audrey McDade. No, maybe I will, though. And when I do, like, I've heard of you.
So, Eddie, tell us a little bit about, like, life today. What is life like for you nowadays? What are you up to?
I have a part-time gig with the Semper Americas Fund, an organization I really love. I've known them for 20 years since they started. Very part-time. I do some public speaking on their behalf, or sometimes other organizations. And I rent a house here in Texas on a golf course, so I just got a new set of clubs. I'm trying to mess around and figure out how to golf. I have a daughter. She's wonderful. She's very intelligent, tall, pretty, smart, kind. I'm super proud of her. Just a good girl, athletic, very talented artist, dancer, tennis player. So my life is mostly just being a dad to her. And I've had some jobs, some cool jobs. Sometimes I wish I was still doing it, but I'm glad I'm not really working full time right now. I love to travel. I travel. I've done the whole let's go to the other side of the planet, space available travel. That was fun. So my life now, I try to focus on becoming the best person that I can be. And that means that the things that I may not like about myself, the habits or the thoughts, or maybe sometimes the down days that I will have every once in a while, I really focus on, okay, what's going on, what's behind the scenes, and why am I feeling like this, and what can I do to mitigate or ameliorate or to heal and move through. And so that's a big part of my journey. I've been able to try all kinds of different modalities, and I've learned a lot. But what I've basically learned is that any one treatment that, and this is to include things like ayahuasca or psilocybin or stellate ganglion block or hyperbarics or counseling or anything is in the immediate goal. You want to get to a place that you can think about things and process things without having, your fight or flight, your amygdala attached to that thought process, which gives you like a fog of war where you can't really do it right. And these things will get you to a place where you can put it into your prefrontal cortex without the emotion that is distracting you and making it very, very hard. And then you have to do the work. And then if then you can't go back to the same habits, you can't go back to the same environment, because I have done that before. And then all the progress you make just gets reset. It takes time. So, for example, there's that book that I read. It's called "The Obstacle Becomes the Way." It's true. You have to just don't want to do. You have hard decisions and lifestyle habit changes. You have to do the work, and it's not going to happen overnight. But you can, with persistence and consistency, you can change. You can rewire your brain. You can physically, they know neuroplasticity is a real thing now, and you can heal from trauma. You can, instead of getting triggered and going to a bad place, you can get triggered and recognize it and just have no associated negative feeling with it anymore. But it takes time and work. So I'd say what I do now mostly is because I want to evolve so I can be present in my life and my daughter's life, is I've been focusing on that, and try to do positive things for myself, for my family, and I guess for the environment around me, because whether I like it or not, I'm visible. When I walk around, people know I have no, I'm missing hands, and I'll wear, should I go out with the old Recon jack on my shirt or something, people will thank me for my service. So I'm also put in a position where I'm skylined. So if I'm going to be skylined, if I'm going to have to carry these hooks or whatever, walk this path, then I might as well, shoulders back, pick my head up and hold it high, and just show show that that these injuries don't define me. You know, that I can be confident and I can be a man and I can have a great life in spite of it. Because whether I like it or not, I have a position that I can inspire people, or I can have them feeling pity for me, and I don't want that. You know, I don't like when I like when people care and they say, "How are you doing?" You know, but a lot of the times when somebody's asking me how am I doing, I'm thinking in my head like, "How are you doing?" Because I understand like everybody goes through shit.
Sure.
You don't have to have a physical wound. The physical wounds are easier to deal with than the emotional or the mental trauma that you've gone through in life.
Where can people go to find you, Eddie? And you mentioned, I think it was the Semper Fi Fund. Where can people go to find them?
Thefund.org, and the Semper Fi Fund is a wonderful organization. It was started by a few volunteers, their spouses of military officers, and it was grassroots. They recognized a need that wasn't being filled by any government agency immediately. Like families needed assistance because when in the beginning of the war, all these guys getting wounded and sent to Walter Reed and other places, there weren't resources for moms and dads who had to quit their jobs to come and take care of their children, or wives or husbands quitting to take care of their spouses, or not getting paid. So they knew that there was a need. People needed help with like money for hotels or food. Like my mother she flew over from Ireland. She lived, she was at the Fisher House for a good 5 or 6 months, helping to take care of me and help me, once I wasn't an inpatient, get to and fro appointments. And so I ran into them in the beginning, and they've been family since. And now the organization has grown into an organization that is granted over $500 million to over 34,000 veterans and their family members, and never with an overhead that exceeded 7%. It's like top rated in all the charity watchdog sites, and they don't have to advertise. It just always has been word of mouth, and now it for years has been expanded to not just help Marines and corpsmen, but all service branches: Air Force, Army, Navy, Coast Guard, God forbid, Space Force. Like we get into another thing, I think it'd be cool to be in it. Sounds cool to be in the Space Force, but maybe I'm not a numbers cruncher. Maybe it wouldn't be good for me, but so yeah. Yeah, so they'll help anybody, and their programs are wonderful because they have things for Vietnam era guys, they have things for spouses, they have things for children, they have mental health resources, they have Team Semper Fi, sporting events, they have entrepreneurship programs, they have and if you need emergency grants for your house flooded, or you have a family member who's ill and you can't afford the flights to be with them, all kinds of stuff. And they're like angels. It's a great organization. There's a lot of great organizations out there, but that one right there is top notch. Yeah.
That's awesome. Eddie, any final thoughts, any questions that you wish I had asked that I didn't before we get going tonight?
I'd like to mention my platoon commander, Captain Brian Morrell. I already mentioned he was such a good guy. I still keep in touch with his mom and dad, and his wife at the time. And sometimes I feel they were able to move on or process it faster than me. Like when I call them, I don't call and but break into tears. Feeling terrible. We've gone through all that together. But Captain Morrell was posthumously awarded the Navy Cross for his actions on the battlefield that day. And a friend of mine, Mike Mendoza, as well. And there was another Navy Cross that day in our platoon, and some Silver Stars, Bronze Stars. Like, we acquitted ourselves very well on the battlefield. Very proud to be part of 1st Recon Battalion, and now our platoon, one of the most highly decorated recon platoons in our history from any single engagement. And let's see, any questions? I'd like to say, like, in spite of my injuries, I've been able to do some really cool things. So, if there's people out there listening and watching, and you might have an injury you're dealing with or something, an ailment, life isn't over. I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with my team leader with the raging hangover and made it. That's another story. And then, I've my last year in the Marine Corps, I actually went back to work. I healed up and I worked at the basic school in Quantico, Virginia, teaching the Marine Corps martial arts program at their instructor trainer schoolhouse, the Martial Arts Center of Excellence. So that was a cool way to go out. So, I try to let injuries define me. And I think, it's probably good advice for a lot of people. I can get into my head and I can be like, everybody looks at me and I'm a dude with no hands. But a lot of times that's just me thinking, because a lot of people don't even notice. And then a lot of times I forget. And so life's good, and when it's not, don't worry. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other. We all got to stick together. We still keep losing a lot of veterans to suicide. And a lot of times it's the one you would never expect.
Yeah.
I know these guys and I'm like, what the hell, where did that come from? And families are left behind and it's terrible. So, like, if you're going through a rough time, call somebody, man. Don't isolate. Don't bury yourself in the bottle. Like, of course, getting hammered has helped me on occasion, but it also has not helped me on any occasion. And I think just don't isolate. Stay in touch, but more than anything, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Because no matter, these guys who I know who have, it's way too many, it's crazy, who have killed themselves. I know that maybe if they would have waited one more day, they would have been feeling better. Or, so just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Like, or call somebody. There's resources too.
It's awesome advice, Eddie. Thank you for sharing your story tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for being patient with me. I guess, you got a version of my story that I haven't been that detailed in telling my story in a long time. Honestly, I used to tell it like that, but last few years, people have been getting the shortened version. So
understandably, I get it.
Excuse me. So anyway, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you too, Eddie. I mean, I know it's not always an easy thing to recount, even though you seem to have processed, the event pretty well at this point, but it still sucks. But for folks out there, we'll have some links down in the description for Semper Fi, and appreciate you guys joining us tonight. And we'll see all of you out there next time. And thank you again, Eddie.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Hey guys, it's Jack. I just want to talk to you for a moment about how you can support the show if you've been watching it, enjoying it, but you'd like to get a little bit more involved and help us continue to do this. You can check out our Patreon. It is patreon.com/theteamhouse. And for $5 a month, you can get access to all of these episodes of The Team House ad-free. The same goes with our affiliated podcast, Eyes On, with Andy Milburn, Jason Lyons, Mick Mulroy. That one, you will also get all of those episodes ad-free. And you support the channel and the show, and we really appreciate it. The Patreon members are literally what has helped this company, this small business survive, especially during our early years. And you are what continues to help this thing going, even as we navigate the turbulent world of YouTube advertising. So we really appreciate all of you guys. There's going to be a link down in the description to that Patreon page. And there is also going to be a link to our new merch shop. So if you guys want to go and get some Team House merchandise, we got stickers and we also have patches. And I should mention, if you sign up for Patreon at $10 a month, we will mail you this patch as well. So we really appreciate that. But they're also for sale on the merch shop. And additionally, they got t-shirts up there, water bottles, a tote bag, coffee mugs, all that good stuff. So please go and check them out and support the show. We really appreciate it, guys. Thank you.